Welcome back to Talkin Shop, the podcast that keeps it real for all you makers, fabricators, and business builders. Today, we're diving into a simple but powerful concept, and that's going to be consistency wins. Consistency
wins.
But I'm your host, Brandon Bombardo, here with the Luigi of the show, Nick Peters.
I don't even know what that means, but it's funny.
Because it's a me, Mario, and then you're Luigi.
It's me, Luigi, his little brother.
See, sidekick.
Do you know who's older? Do we know?
No.
I'll get you the answer next week.
I have no idea.
Oh,
Nick, you can Google that.
I can.
Google who is older. You seen the Mario movie?
Yes, about 614.
It's an awesome movie.
It's great. It's fantastic. It actually really is.
See, so it's me, Mario, and Luigi.
And me, Luigi.
Luigi says something. I just don't know what his. I don't know what his like
I don't remember.
go-to line is.
I'll bring it in.
You can make one up. It could just make one up.
If I'd have read like the part of our show prep before I came in here, I would have known you were going to say that. I'd have been prepared, but I'm not. So that's fine.
I like to throw those in there. But obviously, we talked about consistency wins, and we're not just talking about being flashy. We're not talking about your overnight wins. We're going to be talking about showing up. You know, the days that are tough, you know, day after day with the right attitude, the right effort, the long game in mind, if you will, right? It's always about playing the long game. You're a golfer, right?
Long game, yeah.
Not about your one hole, right? It's about the long game. So
I'm too old to have a long game anymore.
really?
I'm just happy with hitting it straight.
Yeah, I'm see my problem in golf is I have a really good hole followed by 7 bad ones. So it's like
That's fair.
I could start off really great, or I have 7 bad ones and I have a really great one, and I'm like, well, that's not going to happen anymore.
Oh, you sound a lot like our friend Chad.
Chad's on the live tour now.
That's right. I'm actually playing golf with Chad on Sunday.
Are you?
If I lose to him and he comes, I would never hear the end of it.
I hope he wins.
And now my legs.
We'll talk about it on the show next week.
My leg's still a little bit sore, so I'm kind of worried about it. I was gonna play softball Friday night, but I'm like,
Yeah, should you be playing golf?
I mean, I'm gonna play golf. I better not play softball, so if I get hurt again, I won't be able to play golf with Chad. And,
Right.
Yeah. But at least if I lose to Chad, I have an excuse.
Fair enough.
I'm hurt, dude. Great. So you beat a handicapped Nick, not a full strength.
There you go. Let's jump into questions and comments so we can get into this week's episode for our
Perfect.
listeners.
Brought a couple this week. 3
Okay.
actually.
Got it?
Number 1. Why does the fiber laser not offer an open table?
It's dangerous. That's actually the real answer,
Yeah.
but I could probably tell you a little bit more about it. But their honest reason is fiber laser technology is dangerous, and you know, obviously, it uses a wavelength that's not visible to the eye. That wavelength can bounce. So you know, when you're cutting, that beam comes down and you're hitting steel, right, or metal, and it can reflect. I mean, it can happen, and if it bounces, it continues to bounce potentially, you know, and so. The thing about it is your eyesight's not replaceable. That's for one thing. And so the wavelengths, if they make contact with your eye, can become, you know, it can create irreparable damage. And that can be to one's person or place. So the other thing is it bounces and it hits something, and it can start a fire. And so the fire hazard is always a concern. So this is why we enclose the fiber laser. Now, there are removable panels on it, and some people have chosen that they're going to remove the panels, and they've built a laser room where the room is dedicated to it, and still the operator is actually through a wall, watching through a window area. But nevertheless, you want something to be safe, you know, and that's the thing is safety is, you know, the first thing that we really try to think about. So that's why we enclose it, to ensure optimal safety is in place for our customers operating it.
Perfect.
So.
Number 2, why does the ShopSabre 23 not have ATC as an automatic tool change?
Yeah, the ATC option that we offer is from HSD. And HSD, is, for those of you who don't know, is an Italian spindle manufacturer, one of the top providers of spindles in the world. And thus their options, I mean, for one, the cost of those spindles, the cost alone is as much as the machine for the tool changer package. So for one, it's a costing thing. It just doesn't make sense to double the machine price at that point. We've just found that the market just doesn't bear it. And the other side of it is the size of that option. Those spindles are very heavy and very large, and it exceeds the intent of the machine design. And so when you're adding that to that machine, it changes the design requirements altogether. I mean, for one, it's going to change the gantry, it's going to change the bed, it's going to change the clearances. And so by the time you do that, you're basically building the Pro Series, when you start doing it that way. And I realize, I mean, there's so many people out there that will say, well, there's other machines that do offer auto tool change in that price. And you're 100% right, but they're using lesser quality tool changers. And at this time, we just haven't explored those. I'm not saying that one day we won't offer those tool changers, but for us, we've built our reputation around quality and the support we can provide. And I really have a hard time sacrificing quality to make a buck, right?
Yep.
And so, yeah, I don't know. It changes the design of everything, and then it drives us more into that class of the Pro Series anyways. And thus, we already have a 4x4 in the Pro, and for a smaller footprint, high performance need. And so I just kind of, I look at it from that perspective. From a cost perspective, the RC4, the 4x4 and the RC also has a tool changer option, and you're going to run into that price point with the 23 anyways. It'd actually probably be a little bit more in some cases. So for us, it's just a costing versus demand thing.
Makes a lot of sense.
So
question number 3. Why do you use Gasket in your Polycarb video? Why not just set it on the vacuum table?
That's a good question, actually. Vacuum's about concentrating the flow to the part's surface. And I think the thing that people don't realize about vacuum is vacuum's not truly sucking the part down. It's actually removing the air below your part, right? It's or the atmospheric pressure, if you will, the pressure below the part. And therefore, you're increasing gravity, right? And so it's pushing down on the part, and that's what holds it in place. So the biggest thing, and to answer the question, is you use Gasket because the material is slippery. It moves easily, right? Especially when you have air underneath it, or you're moving air from below it. And so that's the biggest part of it is you're trying to concentrate that air to your part and getting a better hold on it. And sometimes, like specifically in the Polycarb video that they're referring to, that part's not very big. And therefore, the area of exposure around the part is too large to just simply overcome. And so therefore, because air travels to the area of least resistance, naturally the air is going to want to go around the part. And so that's why we gasket to ensure that it doesn't do that. And that therefore it will increase the holding force on that part. And, really, like I said, the part size matters, the type of material matters, because Polycarb is slippery and it does result in things moving easier under load. And, Gasket is just cheap insurance, especially when you're dealing with Polycarb, which can be very expensive. And some of the tooling that we used in that video, I mean, I think the one bit we used in that video was like $1,000.
Jeez.
So it's like the material shifting into the bit can cause the bit to break.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to do is break $1,000 tool because I was too cheap to buy some gasket.
Right.
So I just buy the gasket to be, more of an insurance policy there too. So
good.
Any other questions, or did we get through all of them?
That's it.
Okay. So this week's topic. Oh Lord, here we go again. Ooh, you almost got it that time.
Almost got it.
Yeah. For those not watching, he's throwing the paper at the camera now. That's his new thing. But we're talking about consistency, and honestly, one thing about consistency that I think is safe to say is consistency often feels boring.
Yeah, I mean, how often is doing the same thing over and over the same way not boring, right?
Right. But
But at the same time, it's not bad.
Right. It works is why, right? Consistency isn't sexy. I mean, it's something that I think can be true about that. For those of you on social media, consistency doesn't get you likes, right? And it doesn't get you people thinking you're the greatest and, all of that. It's a consistent, repetitive motion. And it's just like anything. Like a routine sometimes can feel like it goes unnoticed. And I often refer to, and there's people that can relate to this. If you go into work early every day, right? Show up 15, 20 minutes early, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever. Sometimes you get so used to doing it that you feel like it's going unnoticed. People don't recognize it, right? But the truth is, while others chase those shortcuts, right? Or the gimmicks or the hype, you're building trust, credit, you're becoming a more reliable person, if you will, right? Or place if you're talking about business in the world that is full of uncertainties.
For sure.
And so I think like it doesn't go unnoticed. I think it's just, as you said, you know, it's boring, right? It's one of those things where because you do it, sometimes you feel like it's expected, right? But in the end, it gets you further because people start to recognize that you are a consistency in a world full of chaos.
Yep, for sure.
And so, I don't know. Let me ask Nick, I guess, to you, what is consistency, in your opinion, what does consistency look like in business?
I mean, I think continually doing the things that made you successful, right?
Right.
Like, you know the things that work, you know the things that don't work, typically, right? Mm-hmm. So you might as well keep doing the things that work in a positive manner to your business, your customers,
right,
your employees. I mean, all the positives, right?
Right. And I agree. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. I was just asking your opinion because mine is like, it's not as, your answer was much better. My answer was going to be kind of simple. Is like, what does it look like in the place of business? And it's answering all of your calls. It is answering every email with an answer, right? Yep. Giving somebody a response, even the tough ones, because you get an email that maybe you don't love, right? But you still address it. You're not afraid to talk to that person about it. It's following up when other companies or people forget. And I think that's the thing that pisses people off the most in business is like when you reach out, everybody here that's listening, I'm sure you're a part of some Facebook page or something that has like the happenings page, right? Your whatever town happenings. And one of the constants that I see on there all the time is like, oh, I called this business and they don't call me back. Has anybody had any issues getting a hold of these people? Like, and they're talking about landscape companies or, you know, the local restaurant or whatever, you know, and it's just, but it's a common, no matter what, like that is something you see people complain about is not getting a response.
Yeah. And I think going back to that point that you made in the one before that is just giving somebody an answer or giving them the information they need is going to make it easier in the long run, right?
Right.
Like eventually you're going to have, if you're in business, I guess, eventually you're going to have to reply to those questions or give people those answers, right? They're not just going to continue to let you ignore them, especially if they've spent money with you or purchased something from you. Like
I just think,
want
unfortunately, in today's world, people have tolerated it.
Sure.
And that's the thing is like, and that's why I say like, what is consistency or what does it mean about, you know, consistently showing up is it's, you know, it's simple as like, even from, let's think about it from an employee standpoint for a second. Let's forget about the business itself. Let's talk about the employee working at the business. You know, let's say you're in maintenance, right? You're the maintenance guy at a college or wherever. Like it's keeping the equipment running, right? The machines running, maintained. You're maintaining the printers or whatever you got to do, right? Those little things make a place more efficient.
For sure.
And make a business better that are consistencies that often do go unnoticed, right?
I think you probably just did things that are taken for granted that people just assume always work because they're always working when you want to use them, right?
Right.
Because of somebody else's work to keep that happening.
Yeah, and I think, you know, again, to answer the question, what does it look like in business? I think it's honoring your word, right? And even if you have to change your process to get there. And I mean that in a way of if you work for somebody, you've accepted a job, right? You've given them your word that you're going to do the job they hired you to do. And sometimes I think people forget that, right? Like your employees, as they're sitting there like, they committed to doing the job.
Yep.
And then they get frustrated for having to do the job, right? And it's like, that's what the difference between consistency is. Like the people who just do the job, and yeah, there's conversations to be had if you think there's things you can do better, but those who don't do the job, they're not consistent, right? Like they're consistent when it's convenient. But like being truly consistent is just, even when it's inconvenient, you do it. And that means like even for your machines, like how many business owners don't want to stop production at the end of the week and do maintenance? But it's consistency like that keeps your business efficient. And I think in the end, like the end results of doing that is you don't just win jobs, but you earn loyalty, because to earn somebody's business once isn't that hard. But to earn it a second time and consistently get them to come back to you, that takes work, because that means you had to do everything along the way right.
And maybe not necessarily everything along the way right, but when you did make a mistake, you owned it and showed them that you cared, right?
Yeah, but wouldn't that be doing it right still then? Because
sure.
I think in today's world, nobody's perfect.
Right.
We're all going to make mistakes, including myself. I mean, I'm going to mess something up, but the difference is when you just say, you know what, I could have handled that better.
Yep.
I could have done something better here. You know, like you own it. And that'll earn you that loyalty, right? Because the
sure.
person understands that you aren't perfect. You're human just like they are. You guys make mistakes, but you're willing to go the extra mile, right? And you build a brand that's dependable. So your business here, specifically, I pointed out because like how many sign shops and cabinet shops and fabricators and all these shops out there are running on the ragged edge of out of control.
Probably a lot of them.
Right, because you just don't have resources. You're doing it all. You're wearing so many different hats. But the ones that are successful are these companies that stick to their word, right? The sign shop that says, I'm going to build you that sign, and they build you the sign. Now, they might be late, right? Something happens, but consistency matters, right? So if you're consistently late, you develop a reputation for being late, and that hurts loyalty. But if you're consistently on time, and yes, you're late once in a while, your loyalty will overpower that lateness, right?
For sure. And especially when you communicate those things to people, right?
Right.
Like, and just make them aware.
Right.
Like, keep them updated, keep them up to date on what's happening, and let them know all the information you can at that time.
And it goes back to the equipment that you purchase. I think it has a big part of like your loyalty that you're going to receive. Like, you want people to buy from your business. And this is one that gets me a lot is people buy, or they advertise that like, buy from us, our better quality, our service, our this, they have all the reasons why to buy from them, but then they don't practice what they preach, right? They go buy equipment, or they, I'm going to just call it out for what it is, right? ShopSabre equipment isn't the cheapest machine out there, and it's not imported, right?
Yep.
And I see it where people are, all over their websites. If you put a quote request in that ShopSabre, I assure you I've probably gone to your website. Like I look at almost 90% of the quote requests we get, I look at their websites, even if you're talking to one of our other sales guys, because I just like to know what people are doing. But how many websites I look at that are like bragging on their quality, service, support, like how many people have these websites that just drive that home? The family brand or the family values. And those same people write emails about how they can find it cheaper in China, or like, oh, I got one cheaper from, India. Like, you're kind of like
contradicting.
Yeah. Like you want your customers to spend money, but you're not willing. Like that loyalty is noticeable. And some people do notice it. It's something I notice when I go to shops. I notice what equipment are they buying and, what are they doing from a business standpoint. So, to build a brand that's dependable and not disposable, you have to be consistent.
Yep.
And I think a big part of that is as you look at it, it's the compounding effect of reputation, right?
Yep.
Because just like money compounds, right? So does effort. I think if you put in more effort as the owner of the business or the manager of the business, naturally the next step down, it's the effort is noticed everywhere.
Yep.
But if you're not putting in the effort and you don't care, and there's no accountability at the top, there's no accountability at the bottom.
It's the old trickle down effect.
Right.
Like you can, if you're going to be the worst leader in the world, you're going to have the worst. I mean, the foundation is what you need, right?
Right. And I think it says the same thing about your business. The tools you're using have an effect on the quality of parts you're producing, right?
I mean, if you're trying to produce 50 of something to sell,
right,
and you get 50 different outputs, like, is that good for you? Probably not.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're one of those companies that like, that's the uniqueness of your business is that everything's unique and you could buy 10 of them and they're all different, right? Some businesses are that way, some products are that way, but the vast majority of people, like when you're a mass producing product, it's consistency, right? And I think every day that you show up and do the work, even if it's hard and thankless, right? There's the days that we do stuff that we don't get thanked for. You're investing in your future. And I just like a story I like to tell is going back probably 15 years ago now. When I started working in sales at ShopSabre, there was 4 or 5 sales guys and myself, and I cleaned the bathrooms. Every single week, I would just go grab the mop. I'd clean the bathrooms. Like I just made it a thing because when I started there, I realized that like they got really dirty, and then they would get so dirty that they were disgusting. And then finally, somebody would be like, "Oh, we got to clean these things." And and I'm like, consistently just clean them every week, and we won't have this like mass nastiness, right?
For sure.
I mean, and it wasn't nasty in the way that people are probably envisioning. It was just like we work in a shop and people bring in dirty shoes and grime, you have metal dust and everything everywhere. I'm like, rather than us having to scrub the floors and make it like nice again, like let's just do it regularly. So I just started doing it. It's a thankless job, right? Nobody expected me to do it. Nobody thanked me for doing it. It wasn't like every other person in the company came up like, thanks for cleaning the bathroom. Like nobody cared, right? Like they just went on with their life and it just got done.
But let me guess, eventually other people started doing it too?
No, nobody ever did it.
Damn it.
That'd be cool in a perfect world, but that never happened and just never got done by anybody else. I just always did it until finally fast forward 10 years later. And now we have a company that comes in and, obviously assists with that. We have a service for it. But my point being is that the effort compounds, right? You do the effort and it becomes a daily task and it just becomes consistently. And then at that point, it wasn't work anymore. It was just part of the job. And I did this every single week. I didn't care, but I was investing in the future, right?
Yep.
Because at that time, we were a much smaller company. We didn't have the ability to have a crew come in, and it helped us grow to where we are today. And so the real growth to me comes from those small daily improvements. And even something as simple as cleaning the bathroom, right? Like those habits scale. And naturally, I will say, while nobody else necessarily jumped in to clean the bathroom, there were several occasions when I would be cleaning the bathroom and people would come up and say, hey, do you need a hand with something? Is there something I can do? Like, you want me to take that trash out? Like, people jumped in that way, and I will say that people kept the bathroom tidier after that because they saw the person doing it, and they realized if I don't want to do it, then I should probably help keep it clean. So like didn't
not contribute to the dirtiness.
Yeah. My thing is you saw guys using the rugs to wipe their feet off before they'd walk inside, or you would see situations where, we've all done it, where you walk into a bathroom and you see like the paper towels on the floor and they're right around the trash can, and you're like, come on. Like I saw a lot less of that. Because people just realize like he's gonna clean it up, so I might as well put it in the trash at least, right?
Yep.
So it's those little things like that are contagious, and those habits build scalability. I don't know. I just think that like having equipment that's dependable, it is the same thing, right? It's the daily being able to do the daily tasks that create improvement. Well, having the right equipment in place helps you, because again, if you're working against your equipment every day, you're not staying consistent in your business. You're having to do something to kind of band-aid something every day.
Well, you want to have a machine that runs every day for one, right? That can continually keep putting out the work that you're trying to get put out.
Correct. And that's exactly what, I think that brings us to our next section, kind of that I want to talk about is like tools that help you stay consistent, and I think it builds structure into your day is the thing that's nice about good tools, and I when I think of structure and I think of tools, I think of like a CRM, right? A customer record, management system. And I think about the consistency that builds or a structure that builds into a, customer service rep's day, because now where your notes are all the time, and that you can set tasks and follow up with them. And those things you can set goals with, right? And that's a big part of it. Whenever you're trying to, grow, it's setting weekly goals that are going to have a measurable result.
For sure. And knowing like you can, like you said, set your tasks to follow up with those customers so you don't miss, getting them information they requested or answering questions, or heck, even like in my position, being able to look back and see what's gone on prior so that know kind of you don't have to sit there and spend 30 minutes with them asking, what's gone on in the last 2 months with your machine or whatever it may be.
Right.
You can just look at it before you talk to them and know the story before getting to them.
And I can't speak enough to that from a management perspective, because let's be honest, when things make it to my desk, it's few and far between, but when it does, it's usually because something escalated, right?
Yep.
It's nice to be able to go back and look at records and say, okay, I know what has been said between the team, because all of our stuff is, recorded. So I can go back and look at it. And it's not for any other reason than I can go into that conversation not completely blind, and then I can start to see it from their point of view. Like, I know our side. Now let me see your point of view so we can come to, common grounds. Right. And when we didn't have that, I think you find yourself being more defensive initially, which creates a barrier, because you're naturally going to defend your company first, right? Because you don't know anything, so you're going to defend it. But when you know your side, and then you start to listen, like you can listen with intent.
Yep.
What are they trying to accomplish? Where do we go here? And I think that's a big part of like having the right tools in place. And I think another big part of it is like the right equipment. Going back to equipment, because that's what we sell here, is having the right machine. You think about the right machine for your cabinet shop. It can help you with reliability. And something like a ShopSabre really builds consistency into your day, because you're not having to worry about an unreliable machine breaking down and then it's throwing off your whole schedule. I think training your team on a repeatable process is a super part of it. Because if everybody's doing everything in their own way,
right,
you're inconsistent, and inconsistency is chaos.
For sure.
And so I think
then nobody knows what's going on.
Right, exactly, because nobody knows what's the truth anymore. And I think that's the nice thing, is when you have a process in place and you do it consistently, it creates confidence.
Yep.
And I think, the other thing about this all is keeping your priorities clear is another part of it. And I think there's so many times that management priorities are different than the employees' priorities. And then you're kind of chasing trends and you're doing it blindly, because there's not always a roadmap.
Right.
So,
Well, just, I mean, and if your employees don't have clear direction,
right.
and they don't know like what your expectations are,
If you just don't have processes in place, right?
It's everybody's just kind of winging it. Like,
Yeah. Just figure it out until we figure it out, right?
fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it, right? And there is some of that in business. I mean, the reality is that is some of it. But I think you really have to start looking at it from a perspective of long-term goals. Where are you going? What are you trying to accomplish? And then being consistent with that effort. In hockey, I coach, as many of you know, and as I coach kids, people, as I coach kids, the thing that I try to instill in every child is that consistency matters the most. Like if you're going to do one thing and one thing only, it's going to be, you're going to show up every time.
Yep.
Like, and that means the two things and I've said it on the show before, the two things that are non-negotiable for me on any team, and I don't care if that's a hockey team, ShopSabre's team, what team we're talking about. There's two things in my life that are non-negotiable, and that is attitude and effort. If you come in with a bad attitude or you aren't going to give me your maximum effort, you are not going to be on my team.
Right.
Those two things are non-negotiable.
Yep.
And there's a lot of people in this world that I feel like wouldn't cut it. And I say that because consistency is where they lack.
Yep.
They have some incredible effort and some incredible talent and some incredible attitude when they want to. But anybody can have it on the good days.
For sure.
And I try to remind that of people. Like, that's what I watch the most, is I watch how people react to negative situations. And admittedly, I don't always react to negative situations great, but I do it with 100% attitude and effort every time. And what I mean by that is, like, even when I'm mad, right? Like, I'm consistent. You know that you're going to get 100% out of me.
Yep.
And that means we're going to solve the problem, right? I'm not going to back down. I don't do anything halfway. Everything I do is with the intention of driving forward to the end result.
Yeah.
And sometimes the end result is just getting to the end of the conflict. Some of it's solving the problem, right? Yep. Whatever.
But like you said, if you bring that same energy each and every day,
right,
or to each and every, I don't know, part of your day, whatever that work involves, like you're going to consistently get the same reaction to the problem or the same reaction to whatever you're trying to accomplish,
right?
And you're going to get to the end of it the same way, hopefully every time, right? With a resolution.
100%. Yeah. And I think, consistency is the long game, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's how a legacy is truly built, in my opinion. And this is my opinion, right? I mean, I could be wrong. People think I'm an idiot. That's fine. But you don't need to be perfect. That's my honest take, is perfection really doesn't exist.
Right.
People can pretend to be perfect, but nothing's perfect. But you have to be present and dependable, and you have to be, locked in, if you will, or dialed in, or whatever you want to call it, right? You've got to be the person that is there, ready to take on whatever challenge is in front of you. And you have to keep showing up, because it's easy to walk away when things get tough.
For sure.
But those who show up and stay consistent are the ones that generally make it, right? A lot of businesses fail because it gets tough. And that's where they're just not consistent. And they're too tough, I'm going to leave.
And I don't know, to me, I think the tough and uncomfortable situations are the ones that make you better.
Yeah.
Because it makes you figure out how to deal with those things and you learn from it, right?
That's where the real wins live,
yes.
Right? Like, that is exactly where it's at, is it's because anybody can be happy at a birthday party.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's easy. It's trying to find motivation to move forward in negative times.
Right.
Right. And that doesn't mean you won't fail. I mean, some of the best business owners I know got fired. So
probably more than once.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people that have had a job that they failed at, that have become very successful business owners.
But they definitely, obviously learned something from that failure, right?
And that's the point, is that
they got back up from it.
They got up. They got knocked down and they said, damn, I did something wrong, right? What do you learn from it? Like, hell, my dad's fired me 4 times. And every time I got fired, I was angry about it. But every single time he fired me, I learned something.
Right. Because you turn that anger into
I didn't have a choice.
Right. But I mean, you turn it into figuring out why you got fired. What did I do wrong?
But that's my point, is I didn't have a choice.
Right.
I had no other option. Like, I have to move forward. My dad wasn't going to oh, I'm sorry, I fired you.
Just kidding.
No, yeah. Like, that's not my dad. Like, I had to negotiate my way back in this place all the time. And some of that builds character. And I feel like in today's world, we lack that. We lack that, like, knock them down once in a while, right?
For
like
sure.
my kids, I knock them down a peg once in a while. Even when my kid's having like incredible games, like sometimes he gets a little attitude and then I have to knock him down. Like, yeah, you played a great game, but you gave up a weak goal.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm being mean, because I'm being real. Like, I want him to realize that you're not perfect. Like, there's always something somebody can work on.
Well, I think if you let those types of things just turn into always being wins or like there was no mistake, they're just,
Right.
you're going to get complacent, right? And you're just going to assume that everything's going to always go perfectly. You don't need to try harder.
Yeah.
You don't need to put in the effort to get to where you're ultimately trying to get. You got to have those moments where you get, knocked down and told, hey, you could have stopped that one. Like it was.
Got to get beat up once in a while, right?
Nothing wrong with that.
I think it's a generational change too. The generation before us their parents were really hard on them. So then I think like this generation is now like trying to do the opposite.
Dial it back a little bit,
be more friendly with their kids. And then I think the next generation is going to like be back to being hard on their kids because, well, we need to raise a generation that's this, whatever.
Yep.
And I just think like that goes back to it, that your call to action is really building consistency, right?
Yeah.
Be consistent in whatever you do. And really, for us, it's how do you build consistency? And that is showing up. And the right tools, the right support, the right systems will help you get there. But, ShopSabre being one of those companies that if you're looking for a way to level up your business, reach out to us. We're here to help you win the long game, right? We want you to be consistent. Obviously, subscribing to this, Talkin Shop, sharing this episode with your teammates or your friends or whoever to help us keep pushing forward because it's consistency, right? So consistently, I'm going to ask you to follow us, right? Like that's what we're going to do. But my whole thing is about trying to find a way to just keep going. And, my motivational quote of the week for you is if you cannot make a mistake, you can't make anything. And I think that's the truest statement that I've probably ever come up with because I saw that and it resonated with me because so many people are so afraid to make a mistake, but they hold themselves back.
Sure.
And if you don't make a mistake once in a while, you're never going to learn. You're never going to find comfort zones.
100%.
So, the one thing that I learned the most about going back to my racing, obviously I circle track race once in a while. A lot less lately than I used to. Kids in
Have
sports.
kids, they say.
Yeah, kids in sports, I tell you. But my thing is we go out for practice before every race, right? You get a few practice laps. And I've had a lot of people give me crap because I'll go out for practice laps and I joke about winning hot laps. I'm gonna go win hot laps. And everybody's just like, whatever. Like, don't be a try hard in hot laps. I'm like, no, I'm gonna be a try hard in hot laps. I'm gonna try to win hot laps. And the reason I do, the real reason behind why I try to win hot laps isn't because like it's cool to go win hot laps. No, it's because I'm trying to truly push myself to the limits. Because if I'm gonna screw up, I want it to be in hot laps.
Sure.
Let's spin out when nothing matters.
Right.
Versus now I'm pushing myself to the limits in the first race and I spin out and that matters because it affects you.
Sure.
So that same mentality needs to be like whenever you're practicing, whenever you're doing something, like do it 100%. And that goes back to my statement of if you can't make a mistake, you can't make anything because you're not going to grow in your comfort zone.
Couldn't agree more.
So anything to finish it out, Luigi?
No, because I don't know what Luigi says.
What's the song? What's the Mario song?
Do-do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do.
That was actually pretty good.
Do-do-do-do-do.
That was pretty good.
Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
All right, enough.
That was really good.
That was actually really
That
good.
was really
I was really
good.
impressed with
I'm
that.
impressed with
I was
myself.
very impressed with that. Not gonna lie to you. Just for the record, that was not a loaded
No, that was
sound. That was
100% me
Nick
doing
making that. So
People better really appreciate that.
That was pretty good.
I feel like that was
you know what? If people
One of
have
my
no
better
idea what you're talking about right now,
no, but the people that do are going to be like, nailed it.
that was pretty good.
Nailed it.
Yeah. As always, guys, thanks for tuning into Talking Shop with ShopSabre. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Nick.
Until next time, keep talking shop.